The sky was red, not from the twin suns of Zilara Prime, but from fire, smoke, and burning metal. Captain Aaron Thalos of the Valari fleet stood frozen, her wide golden eyes reflecting the falling debris. Their proud defense platform had just been ripped apart, not by alien beasts, not by nature, but by something worse. Humans. She had ignored the warnings. One in particular echoed in her mind, over and over like a haunting rhythm. A single human's voice, calm and serious. Don't provoke them. You don't understand how they fight. You'll lose more than just a battle. That human, his name was Dax, had visited the Valari Council 6 cycles ago. An envoy, they said. A former soldier, now turned diplomat. But Aaron had laughed at him behind closed doors. How could one small creature with soft skin and no claws expect to advise a warrior caste? The Valari didn't take orders from Prey. Now, as a squad of elite guards lay scattered like broken dolls, Aaron began to understand the price of arrogance. A second blast thundered behind her. The ground shook violently. She fell to her knees as flames swallowed the skyport. Her antennae twitched with panic. Civilians screamed somewhere in the smoke, but the comms were dead. Her second in command, Serna, limped toward her, one arm hanging useless. Captain. The humans, they didn't respond to our surrender signal. They single quotes pushing into the capital zone. Aaron's throat tightened. This wasn't a war. It was an extermination. Fall back to the palace, she ordered, voice shaking. We need to boom. Another explosion cut her off. This one was close, too close. Dust and debris flew everywhere. When the air cleared, Aaron saw a shape emerging from the smoke. It was him. Human. But not Dax. This one wore a black suit of armor. It hissed with steam and power. His visor glowed like a burning star. He raised one arm and the weapon attached to it crackled with blue light. Stand down. The human's voice came through a speaker, deep and clear. You've made your choice. Aaron gritted her teeth. Her pride screamed at her to fight. But her heart whispered one thing, run. Still, she didn't move. She stared at him, defiant even in ruin. You dare destroy our home? She spat. We showed mercy to your kind. You refused peace, he interrupted coldly. Now you'll learn why no species survives a war with us. In a flash, he fired. Aaron's vision turned white. 5 hours earlier, Valari Council chamber. The council room shimmered with golden light, and Captain Aaron stood tall in front of the high nobles. Behind her, Dax the human envoy waited quietly, hands clasped, face unreadable. Our scans show human ships near the neutral zone, one noble said. Explain this. Dax nodded respectfully. They're not warships. They're humanitarian vessels. We've heard rumors of illegal Valari camps using human captives. Aaron laughed loud and sharp. So your people send armed ships for rumors? Dax didn't smile. We came to avoid war, but if we're forced, we will defend our own. And if we don't listen to your warning? Aaron challenged. The room fell silent. Dax met her gaze. Then I advise you to evacuate civilians now. Because once the first human soldier sets foot here, no plea will stop what comes next. She rolled her eyes and turned her back. And that, she realized now, was her mistake. Now back on the war-torn ground, Aaron gasped awake. Her armor was cracked. Her left side burned. She was alive, but barely. The human had spared her? No, that didn't make sense. She looked around. The area was empty except for one figure crouching beside her. It was Dax. His face was dirty. His left hand was bleeding. But his expression was full of something that shocked her more than the war itself. Sorrow. Told you, he said softly. You should have listened. She tried to speak but coughed instead. Her lungs were weak. He gently handed her a water pack. "We're not monsters, Aaron," he said, "but we never fight to lose. And once the trigger is pulled, nothing stops." U.S. Tears welled up in her alien eyes. Not from pain, but from shame. Because now the war was here. And it was her fault. The palace was in ruins. What was once the heart of Valari power now lay broken, its walls cracked and its towers smoking. Fires burned across the Grand Plaza. Statues of old warrior queens had toppled. The once beautiful sky gardens were nothing but ash. Captain Aaron limped through the rubble, leaning on a bent metal staff. Her golden armor was scorched. Her left leg barely moved. But her eyes, her proud, golden eyes, still burned with fire. Behind her, Serna helped two young guards. One was missing a hand. The other was barely conscious. No one spoke, because everyone now understood what Aaron had refused to believe. Humans were not prey. They were predators. Calculated, precise, relentless, and now unstoppable. Aaron coughed and looked up at the broken ceiling of the throne hall. Sunlight streamed through the cracks, cutting through smoke. The air smelled like burnt stone, metal, and blood. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed across the room. Aaron turned. Dax stood there. He was alone. His armor was gone. He wore only a dark shirt, stained and torn. But he still looked calm, too calm. "Why did you come here?" Aaron hissed. He looked at her, tired eyes meeting hers. "To save who's left," he said. She narrowed her eyes. "You started this war." He shook his head slowly. "No, I warned you. I begged your counsel to listen. You laughed in my face." She clenched her jaw. "You knew this would happen." "Yes," Dax replied simply. "Because we've seen it before. You thought our peace was weakness, but humans only choose war when there's no other way." He stepped forward. "And when we fight, we don't stop halfway." A cold silence followed his words. Even the fires seemed to dim. Aaron sat on the edge of the fallen throne. Her hands trembled. "I thought we were stronger," she whispered. "We had more ships, more weapons." Dax nodded. "But you didn't have experience. You didn't understand the one thing every species forgets about humans." She looked up. "And what's that?" He paused, then said quietly, "We learn, and when we lose someone, we don't cry. We get better." Flashback 3 days before the AT-Tatex stood at the edge of the High Council's garden. The city below sparkled with lights. Alien trees swayed in the wind. He looked calm, but inside he was boiling. Aaron joined him, arms crossed. "You don't belong here," she said coldly. He didn't look at her. "I didn't come to belong. I came to prevent what's coming," she smirked. "You think we're afraid of you?" "No," he replied. "That's the problem." She walked away, laughing. "Now in the ruins of the palace, you warned me," Aaron said bitterly, "and I ignored it." Dax sat across from her. "You still have a choice." She raised an eyebrow. "You're offering peace? Now?" He nodded. "I don't want more death. And neither does the human fleet. But they won't stop unless I signal them. And they won't believe me unless you speak too." She looked away, shame rising inside her chest like a storm. "I have to admit defeat," she said. "No," Dax said firmly. "You just have to admit you were wrong." The words stabbed her harder than any blade. She had trained since she was a child. She was told the Valari were superior, always right, always strong. And now, here she was broken, bleeding, and being saved by the very being she called inferior. She looked up slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then teach me how to end this." Aaron had never walked through her city in silence before, not like this. The streets of Valari's capital were covered in dust and wreckage. Her people stared at her, some with hope, others with hate. A few even turned away. To them, She was still the proud captain who had led them into war, and beside her walked a human. Dax. His presence drew angry stares. Whispers followed them like ghosts. He didn't seem to care. He walked steadily, scanning the damaged buildings, the burned towers, the frightened faces. Not as a conqueror, but as someone who had seen this all before. "Your people hate me," Aaron said, voice low. "They're scared," Dax replied. "Hate always comes after fear," she frowned. "But you're the enemy." Dax paused. "Not anymore. If you want peace, you have to stop thinking like a warrior. Start thinking like a protector." She looked at him, confused. "Protect? The ones who call me a traitor." He met her eyes. "Especially them." They reached what was left of the city's healing center. It had once been tall and silver. Now half of it was crushed. The roof was missing. But inside, medics still worked. Alien nurses stitched wounds. A small group of human field medics worked beside them. No one spoke when Aaron and Dax entered. All eyes locked on them. One of the alien doctors stood up. "We don't treat enemies here." Dax stepped forward. "She's not your enemy." "Not if you want this war to end," the doctor glared. "She brought the war." Aaron stepped forward slowly. "Yes, I did. And now I'm here to end it." A long silence followed. Then, from the far corner, a child's voice asked, "Did you lose too, Captain?" Aaron turned. A small Velari girl sat with her leg bandaged, her antennae drooping. Arin nodded slowly. "Yes, I lost everything." The little girl looked at Dax. "Is the human your friend now?" Aaron blinked. She had never thought of it that way, but Dax answered first. "I'm not her enemy anymore." Later, in the halls of the shattered tower, Aaron stood in front of a giant screen. The human fleet hovered outside the planet's atmosphere, massive, dark, and waiting. "They won't wait forever," Dax said behind her. "I know," she said quietly. He handed her a comm device. "All you have to do is say the words. Tell your warriors to stand down. Let them hear it from you." Her hands shook. "I was trained never to surrender." "This isn't surrender," he said. "This is survival." She stared at the screen. So many lives waited on her words. She wasn't just a captain anymore. She was the last thread holding the world from falling apart. She clicked the device on. Her voice went out across all channels. "This is Captain Aaron Thalos. All Velari forces. Stand down. The war is over. Do not resist the human forces. Do not fire. Do not fear. We will survive, because we will. Choose peace." She ended the call with a heavy breath. Dax smiled faintly. That took courage. She looked at him, bitter. "No, courage would have been listening to you when I still had a fleet." Flashback, years. Erli Young stood in training halls, shouting commands. Her instructors taught her that strength meant dominance. That pride came before mercy. That hesitation was weakness. She believed them. Until now. Now. In the AFTRM, the streets were still quiet, but the noise of war had faded. Human dropships landed, but not with guns raised. They carried supplies, water, medkits, tents. And to Aaron's shock, smiles. Children approached the strange human soldiers with curiosity instead of fear. Some even touched their strange gear and laughed. The humans laughed back. Aaron stood beside Dax, watching it all. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because someone once gave us a second chance too." She turned to look at him. "For someone who lost so much," she said, "you don't seem bitter." Dax's eyes darkened. "Bitterness builds walls. We build bridges." And for the first time, Aaron truly began to understand the human way, not just their strength in war, But their power and forgiveness. It happened at midnight. A coded transmission reached the city's inner tower. It wasn't from humans. It was from Valari warriors, rogue ones. Loyalists who refused to obey Aaron's call to surrender. The message was simple. You have betrayed us. Prepare to face the true warriors of Valari. Aaron stood still as the words repeated in the background. Her body went cold. Serna, she said quietly, calling her second in command. How many still follow me? Serna looked away. 2. Few, Captain. Most think you've surrendered not just to humans but to shame. Aaron's hands curled into fists. Dax stood behind her. He didn't speak, just waited. She turned toward him. They're going to attack the city. Not the humans, my own soldiers. Dax finally spoke. That's what happens when pride is hurt. They want someone to blame. They'll get civilians killed, she snapped. He nodded. So what will you do? Her jaw tightened. I'll fight. Dax raised a brow. Fight your own people? I have to, she said. If I don't, more blood will spill. At the eastern wall 3 hours later, smoke drifted across the lower platforms. Irene stood in her full armor once more. Her cracked chest plate had been repaired. Her cape was burned short, but her eyes were steady. Dax stood beside her, unarmed. You're coming with me? She asked. He gave a small shrug. I'm not here to kill anyone. I'm here to make sure you don't get yourself killed. A deep horn sounded in the distance. The rebel Valari forces marched forward, dozens of them. Some in old war gear, others in blood-red cloaks. At their head marched Commander Rosen, a beast of a Valari male with a scar across his face and a hatred in his eyes. He raised his voice. Aaron Thalos. You kneel before apes and call it peace? Aaron didn't move. I call it survival. You surrendered to prey, he bellowed. You gave away our pride. Aaron stepped forward. No, I gave us a future. Rosen spat at the ground. Then you're no longer fit to lead. The warriors behind him raised their blades and roared. And Aaron did the unthinkable. She dropped her weapon. I won't fight you, she said. But I won't let you hurt the innocent. Some of the rebels hesitated. Dax whispered behind her. You sure this'll work? She whispered back, no. Rosen charged, and everything exploded. The 5GT rebels rushed forward, roaring. Aaron didn't move. She stood firm, eyes locked on Rosen, but before the enemy reached her, human drones swooped down from the sky, releasing sound pulses. They didn't kill but disoriented the attackers. Some rebels fell to their knees, gripping their heads. Others stumbled in confusion. Dax stepped in, hands raised. No one needs to die. He shouted. This isn't how your species survives. Look around. Some Valari lowered their blades, but Rosen didn't stop. He reached Aaron and slammed into her. They fell together, rolling on the ground, locked in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle. You're weak, he growled. You should have died before. Surrendering. Aaron gritted her teeth, blocking his blows. No, she hissed. I lived so others wouldn't have to die. With a burst of strength, she flipped him over and pressed a blade to his throat, but she didn't strike. Instead, she stood. I won't become the monster you want me to be, she said. Rosen stared up at her, panting. Then he dropped his weapon. Slowly, others did the same. After the Ske Aramista Plaza was silent again. Some rebels were injured. Some helped the wounded. And none dared look Aaron in the eyes. Dax handed her a canister of water. You just saved them from themselves. She drank and looked around. No, she whispered. They still have a long way to go. So do I. That night back in the city, Irene sat on a stone bench, helmet at her side. Dax joined her quietly. You didn't have to come with me, she said. I told you, he replied. I'm not your enemy. She looked at him. But I was yours. He nodded. And you paid the price. But now, maybe you can help fix what's left. She turned to him slowly. Will they ever forgive me? Dax looked up at the stars. Humans forget a lot of things. But we remember those who change. Asterisk, a message came from the orbiting human fleet at dawn. It was not friendly. Captain, Aaron Thalos must be held accountable. Prepare her for transfer to the human flagship for trial. Aaron read the message twice, then sat down without a word. Dax stood in the same room, his face unreadable. So that's it? She asked. You saved my city to hand me over? Dax didn't answer immediately. I didn't send that order. He said, Command did. They think you're still a threat. Aaron let out a bitter laugh. They're not wrong. She stood up slowly, armor still scratched from last night's fight. Her eyes, though tired, held a new calm. I'll go. Dax frowned. You don't have to just accept this. I started a war, Dax, she said. I caused death. Maybe this is what I deserve. He took a step forward. That's not justice. That's revenge dressed up in rules. Her gaze turned sharp. What would you have me do? Hide? Run? No, he said. I want you to speak. Tell them what you told me. Show them you're not the same woman who ignored the warnings. She looked away. I'm not a hero. You? Don't have to be, he said. You just have to be honest. Hours later, aboard the human flagship Valiance, the courtroom was not grand. No banners, no cheering crowds. Just a table, a judge, and military officers, human and alien, seated. In silence, Erin stood in the center, her wrists bound in glowing cuffs. Her armor had been removed, replaced by plain gray cloth. Dax sat behind her. Alone, watching. The lead officer, Admiral Raylan, stood tall with sharp eyes. Captain Thalos, he began. You led an attack against human vessels. You rejected. Peace. You caused the deaths of soldiers, civilians, and medics. Do you deny this? Erin lifted her chin. I do not. Then why should we believe anything you say now? The room was silent. Erin took a breath. Because I've already paid the price. I lost my command, my home, my people's trust. I've walked through the ruins I helped create. And I'm not asking for mercy. I'm offering truth. The Admiral folded his arms. Speak. Erin's statement. When Dax came to warn us, I saw him as weak. I mocked him. Because I was raised to believe humans were soft. Foolish. I was wrong. You didn't crush us because you hate us. You did it because we wouldn't stop. We pushed until there was no turning back. And when you came with fire, you stopped when you didn't have to. Dax didn't abandon us. He stayed and saved lives. Even after everything I did, I've seen his soldiers give water to my wounded. I've seen children laugh again because your medics brought food and toys. This isn't about war anymore. It's about what comes next. The room fell quiet. Even the Admiral seemed unsure. Then one officer asked, Do your people still follow? You? Erin nodded. Some do, not all, but enough. Another leaned forward. And what will you do if we release you? Her voice was firm. I'll rebuild what I helped destroy. After the trial, Erin sat in a small waiting room. Dax walked in, his face unreadable. Well? She asked. He smiled slowly. They're letting you go. She blinked. What? Not because they trust you, he added. Because they believe in second chances. Same reason they trusted me after my own failures. She leaned back, stunned. You fought for me, she said. He nodded. I told him what you did. About standing down your own soldiers. About saving your enemies. About changing. She gave a tired laugh. That doesn't sound like the Aaron Thalos they feared. No, he said. That one died the day she chose peace. Back on the planet, Dadanai GT stars stretched across the sky as Aaron looked out from the ruins of the central tower. The lights of recovery work flickered below. Human and Velari teams worked side by side. Serna joined her. "You're back," Serna said softly. "For now," Aaron replied. "What did they say?" "They said I get one chance," Serna smirked. "Then let's not waste it." And for the first time in many cycles, Aaron smiled. A real smile. Asterisk, the fires were out. The guns were silent, but peace was still fragile like glass balanced on a blade dotted. Had been 7 days since Aaron's release. 7 days of rebuilding, of cooperation between humans and Velari. The ruins of the city now echoed with the sounds of machines, laughter, and new life, but not everyone wanted peace, and someone was about to prove it. Nightfall Human Relief Center. Dax stood beside Aaron as they inspected the new water purifier unit being installed by human engineers. "It should double the clean water output," one of the crewmen explained. "Impressive," Aaron said, genuinely. Dax grinned. "We're good at fixing things too, you know, not just breaking them." But before she could reply, an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. Emergency buzzers rang across the camp. "Fire in Sector 3. A voice shouted. Dax and Aaron looked at each other and ran. Sector 3. Minutes later, the fire raged in one of the supply buildings. Medical crates exploded. Thick black smoke curled toward the stars. Aaron's heart raced. How did this happen? One of the guards, coughing, handed her a charred piece of metal. On it, she saw a symbol burned in. A Velari rebel mark. Her eyes narrowed. "Sabotage," she growled. Dax scanned the flames. This wasn't just about supplies. They wanted to send a message, and I got it loud and clear, Aaron said. "Some of my people still want war." Later that night, strategy room. The room was dimly lit. Maps and screens blinked softly. Human and Velari officers sat around a table. "We found 3 more rebel messages across the city," Serna reported. "They're organizing." "They want to make Aaron look weak," said Dax. "Make her leadership fail in front of both sides." "They might succeed," one Velari guard muttered. "Many still believe she's a traitor." Aaron stood. "No," she said firmly. "Let them believe what they want. We won't answer hate with fear. We answer it with proof." "Proof of what?" Someone asked. "That piece works," she said, "and we'll show them. Together." Dax gave her a nod. "So what's the city plan?" Next morning, City Squarian stood at the top of the old command steps. Below her, hundreds of Velari and human citizens gathered. The burnt remains of the supply fire were still visible behind her, but she didn't hide them. She pointed to the wreckage. "This is what fear does," she said loudly. "It burns, it divides, it poisons." She looked across the crowd. "I once believed pride was strength, that peace was surrender. But I was wrong. The real strength is standing beside someone you once called enemy and building something better." The crowd was silent. Then she stepped aside and Dax took the stage. "This is not just her fight," he said. "This is ours too. The war is over. But the peace, we must choose it every day." Some began to nod. Others whispered. And in the back unseen, a figure turned and slipped into the shadows. Later, secret cave outside the Sitya rebel Velari scout knelt before a cloaked figure. "She's still leading them," he hissed. "Even now, with humans beside her." The figure's voice was cold. "Then it's time we remind her who she really is." He turned toward a hidden device glowing red. "Let them build their peace. We'll bury it in the ashes." That night, Aaron's quartersaran stood at her window, watching torchlights flicker across the city streets. Dax entered with a datapad. There's been movement outside the eastern hills. Scouts saw figures near the old military vaults. Her shoulders tensed. The rebels are planning something big. He nodded, and we both know what those vaults contain. Aaron turned slowly, eyes serious. Old war weapons, forbidden tech. Things we swore to never use again. Dax stepped closer. We need to. Stop them. Together. Aaron met his gaze. Then tomorrow, we go into the dark. The sun hadn't risen yet. Aaron stood in the shadows of the old war vaults carved into the cliffside. Beside her, Dax crouched with his rifle ready not to shoot, but to warn. Behind them, a small team of trusted soldiers, both human and Valari, waited for the signal. These vaults were sealed long ago. Locked away inside were horrors from the first. Valari expansion war plasma storms, sonic blasters, and memory erasers. Weapons that even the High Council had sworn never to touch again. Now, rebels were trying to awaken them. Inside the VLT they moved fast. The steel gates had already been breached. Rebel symbols painted the walls. Inside, flickering lights lit up ancient tech. 6 rebels stood around a control console, powering up something huge, something humming with unstable energy. In the center stood Commander Rosen, alive and more furious than ever. He barked. Once this is active, we'll show the humans what true Valari strength means. One rebel hesitated. But what about the civilians? Rosen growled. They'll thank us later. Pain is part of rebirth. That was the moment Aaron stepped into the light. No, rebirth doesn't need blood. Weapons rose instantly. Dax raised his voice. We don't want to fight, but we will stop you. Rosen snarled. You? The traitor and her pet? Aaron kept walking. You think war will bring pride back? It won't. It'll only bring more graves. Rosen slammed his fist on the console. Then you'll die here. The machine screamed as energy surged. But Aaron didn't flinch. She stepped forward, unarmed, hands raised, and she looked straight at the rebels, not at Rosen. You followed me once and I led you into war. I was wrong. Now I lead toward peace. You don't have to follow me. But don't follow him into madness. The rebels wavered. One lowered his gun, then another. Rosen saw it. No, you're warriors, not weaklings. He reached for the main control trigger, but before he could press it, a shot rang out. Dax had fired not at Rosen, but at the machine. The console exploded in a burst of sparks. Lights died. Power drained. The weapon shut down. Smoke filled. The vault. And Rosen fell to his knees, defeated. After the RAD outside, dawn finally broke. The rebels were disarmed. Some wept. Others simply stared at the horizon, stunned by what nearly happened. Aaron sat on a rock, watching the sunrise. Dax joined her, wiping soot from his cheek. Well, he said, that was dramatic. She gave a small laugh. You didn't miss. Your aim. I wasn't aiming for him, he said. I was aiming for the future. They both sat in silence for a moment. Then Aaron spoke softly. I've made too many mistakes. I led too many into darkness. But you came back, Dax replied. You stopped more from being made. That matters. She looked at him. Do you really think peace can last? He smiled gently. Not without work. But I think, with you leading your people and me helping from the shadows, yeah, maybe it can. Weeks later, peace SUMET flags of both species flew side by side. The city was still healing, but life had returned. Children played in the streets. Markets reopened. And in the rebuilt council dome, Aaron stood again, this time not as a captain, but as a peacekeeper. Dax stood at her side. Human and Valari leaders exchanged vows, promises, and at long last trust. As the ceremony ended, Someone handed Aaron a data crystal dot. It contained a message from the human high command. You once defied US. Now we welcome you as an equal. She turned to Dax and smiled, not out of pride, but from relief, because she had paid the price and survived to build something better.